Hello and welcome to a Star Citizen CitizenCon summary. This is going to highlight the most important parts, for me anyway, of the main keynote presentation that looked at very near future gameplay from Star Citizen for the 3.3.5 patch, from waking up in your bed in Lorville to completion of a mission, as well as the 2 new ships that were unveiled, a Squadron 42 trailer, and the roadmap to a full game experience. There was a new Squadron 42 trailer released, sort of showcasing where the game is now. Squadron was rating on object container streaming, but there are no more blockers now. So they are adding the roadmap for its completion in December to the roadmap we already have for the persistent universe, and saying that there's no roadblocks means that they are now just completing and filling out and finishing off the game. The trailer showed off lots of capital ships, some impressive scenes, and lots of famous faces, as well as the Vandal ships and ground forces. Admiral Bishop looks many magnitudes better than he did in his speech. It's all looking pretty slick, really. In fact, all of the faces look great, other than, in my opinion, Gillian Anderson's looks less detailed than the rest of them. I am hoping that we will see an updated Admiral Bishop sort of like speech that he did. That would be really, really cool to see that Bishop speech again. 3.3 went to the wider PTU. It should actually be in everyone's hands very soon. If it's not already, check your emails, see if you can copy your account to the PTU from your hangar to see if you're in. I'll leave a link below showing how to do it. You do need a Star Citizen game package, but if it's not in everyone's hands yet, it'll be in everyone's hands soon. It may just be at the moment first wave, so that would be subscribers and concierge, but they want to get into everyone's hands as quick as they can. The Drake Kraken was unveiled, but you knew it was going to come out. It's a large capital attack carrier. It's about half the size of a Javelin, similar in size to an Idris, but sort of like more square and taller. It is a big target, but it does have 5 manned and 4 remote turrets. And one of them size 8. There's big armament on there. It has 6 landing pads, 4 fighter-sized ones, like ones for Buccaneer, for example, and 2 larger ones for Cutlass-sized ships. It also has an internal multi-purpose hangar and a separate Dragonfly and small vehicle bay. So it's massive. You can get another big ship inside that multi-purpose hangar, and you can get loads and loads of smaller vehicles in that small vehicle bay. It's a huge ship, but it's not currently purchasable. You have to register your interest by the 15th of October on the Kraken ship page, and then they'll update us with more info on the 22nd. I assume to people that have put their interest into there to purchase them, maybe. They are likely to be very limited in number, so there isn't even a hint of what they might be priced at, but I'm suspecting expensive. But we'll have to wait and see. More information as I get it. The keynote this year was gameplay of Alpha 3.3.5. Now, 3.3 is going to be in our hands any day now in a live build, as soon as that PTU has hammered out most of those bugs. And some of that gameplay that was shown is certainly stuff that is in 3.3, so let's go over it. They started off as a player spawning in a hab, so habs will eventually have persistence. You'll be able to own and rent real estate on various planets, moons, and stations. They have big enough cities to support this for players, and you might have to take a train, for example, from the center of the city out to your house, which can take several minutes. The interaction system they showed was much better than before. So there's lots you can do with objects now. You can pick up objects, turn them around, look at them. If they've got liquids in, the liquids sort of like are simulated. Lots of stuff will have a lot of interaction and multiple parts. So you could have a coffee machine and a cup, and then you could use the coffee machine and then drink the coffee. And we'll put things down or keep them in a ship or a hab. And that sort of stuff, so you will be able to push these things and put them around and take them with you. They're not going full hard simulation when it comes to survival, but you will need to occasionally eat and drink. The NPCs that you see doing around mopping floors and using things, you can do what they can do and they can do what you can do. So everyone is able to interact with all these objects. The hab areas are massive, full of NPCs who are just starting to now get their schedules. So eventually they're going to have 24-hour work patterns for sleep, eat, and generally have their own lives. And sort of each of them will be unique. Each of the hab blocks on Lorville can house 100 players. They can add more and more as well. So as more and more players need habs or buy habs or rent habs, they can just open up more hab blocks. The security NPCs in Lorville are very oppressive. They will stop and check NPCs, and so they'll ask players to move on. Now, some of the stuff they showed was a bit glitchy when it came to NPCs, and they did kind of warn us about that before it started, so that you saw some of them teleporting and some of the animations not working correctly. But it was pretty cool. I can see that it's supposed to be very similar to like Half-Life 2 Combine vibe from the first level. There are specific animations for barmen and patrons too, and they really are trying to get individual areas really feeling alive. Lorville is massive, around the size of Austin, and has a spaceport, shopping areas, and huge hab zones, and that transit system, which we will come to in a bit. There is a huge hospital too, that when you respawn, you'll go there. So yeah, if you die, you'll respawn there. You may need to visit there if you get injured, because you can medipen yourself, but that only is a temporary fix. They get a mission to meet Clover Star Neely for a salvage quest of some sort. They meet him, and his facial animations, mocap, and quality and voice are all superb, and his hands are pretty good as well. I like to judge games by their hands and their characters. And Star Citizen's hands are pretty good, but his general like facial expressions and animation and believability is the best I've ever seen. It is superb. They have to retrieve parts of a satellite for this mission that's fallen out of orbit, but is on Hurston, so they're on the planet already that they need to be on. VoIP wasn't working very well in the demo, but VoIP was working great. So the face over IP stuff with the camera, not great. Voice over IP, however, really good. So I've tested it in 3.3. It's working reasonably good for me. Obviously a problem with their demo or the way they calibrated it or something. The whole of Lorville was well signposted. They bought some bits for the mission in a shop, and it would be very easy to find your way around, even with this huge city. And the city is huge. Like, the city has a fully functional transit system as well, so you do need to use that to get around to places, to like get to the spaceport or whatever. Trains seem to come every minute or so. They're like close to the center of the city you are. However, on the outskirts, it could be quite a long time. There are 6 different gates the player can enter or exit the city from, and the spaceport as well. NPCs will be able to use trains in the future to move around, and trains are going to have multiple stops and that sort of stuff. There is a checkpoint at the spaceport, sort of like a security checkpoint that you'd have in like an airport. And these will expand with a law and order system. It's sort of like having the criminality and the smuggling gameplay and detecting, like, have you got narcotics on you and things like that. They show the Kraken docked at the spaceport as they pass it in the window. I doubt it's in any way flyable yet, but who knows? They have done quick work before. They spawned a reworked Mustang Beta at the port in a large hangar, and they spawned in a large hangar because they haven't finished the small hangars yet. They are forcing restricted zones in Lorville, so these are sort of no-fly zones for this. So you take off the spaceport, for example, you'd have to get to a certain height before you're able to thrust forwards after taking off. So they're going to try lots of these systems out and see what works for no-fly zones and restricted areas. In Alpha 3.4, coming at the end of December, they're going to open up the Lorville business district as well. So this is going to be loads of shops and stuff in there. Hurston is built out of 6 biomes: desert, polluted coast, savanna, acidic, strip-mined, trash. It's Earth-sized by their scale, but each planet is 1/6 of the size of an actual planet, or what it should be. But that's still pretty huge. They are also making executive gardens and a weapon testing area sort of biome as well for Hurston. The new flight model will also be in that 3.4 alpha. Aerodynamic ships will perform much better in atmosphere than those that aren't aerodynamic. There will be dynamic weather and a load more biomes being added into the game as well, not just what they're showing. Proper water and that sort of stuff as well that has interaction. Scanning will give you a rough idea of where a point of interest is. And then you can narrow that down further by having a look around or what have you. If you go to a mission marker and then ping out, you're more likely to be able to find exactly where you need to go for your mission if you have to search an area. And that's what they did here. They went to an area, they pinged out, and they found where that crashed probe was, and they could see then that it was smoke and fire coming out of it as well. It recently crashed that satellite in the savannah. Fire in this demo didn't actually hurt the player, so they landed and they got out and were dancing in the fire, but eventually fire will injure you and obviously burn you, and fire can suck out the oxygen of an area. So if it's in a sealed space or on a ship, that's pretty dangerous, having your oxygen depleted in that room. In the demo, he actually got injured by missing a couple of jumps, and then he bled out and died, which was quite funny, but they used console commands to literally just teleport back to where he was. The player gets to the top of the probe and then finds the control panel there and ejects some boards or blades that come out. He's looking for this like blade component. He's looking for specifically a prototype blade, but it's not here. This is an example of a multi-part mission and the modular system. So he might have found it there, but he didn't. And now he has to track down the missing part. So using his multi-tool, he hacks a panel in the satellite to allow him to find the mission item, or at least now it will show on his HUD. But on the way back to his ship gets destroyed by a cutlass before he can get in. He may be on the same mission, the person that destroyed him, or similar mission. Like maybe he has to stop that person from doing that or whatever. So the player calls in a friend to help, and the friend turns up in the new flyable ship in 3.3, the Anvil Valkyrie. So this was a secret ship. They didn't announce it, and it went straight to flyable, which is really interesting. So the ship features in Squadron 42 heavily as well. So that is why they were working on it for Squadron 42. They finished it, obviously, and now they got it ready for multiplayer. So the Valkyrie is a true drop ship with room for a turreted Cyclone buggy or an Ursa rover and 20 troops. It has heavy armor and solid firepower. It has 2 size 3 remote turrets and 2 size 3 manned turrets, and is built to get troops in and out of dangerous situations. Pilots, gunners, and passengers in all, this ship can house 25 people. They make short work of the Cutlass and its crew and then fly off and assault an outpost, which is actually an underground facility that has the prototype part in that they need for the mission. It has anti-aircraft turrets around it, so the dropship fires at range and deploys a Cyclone, the turreted model, which can be deployed from some height, it seems, as it literally just drives out of the Valkyrie as it's doing a strafing run, or at least like doing a circular run or whatever people call that. They clear the turrets out and enter the facility. The lift goes down really, really far. This is quite a deep underground facility, and there's a big FPS fight, and this shows off the FPS AI, and the AI aren't perfect yet. It's their first pass on the multiplayer FPS AI stuff, but they do work. And the fight looks pretty cool. There's some cool animations when they die and stuff as well. Some of them are a bit buggy, but reinforcements also might be a thing for some missions in the future as well. So they land above and then like come into the facility, things like that. The player clears the facility and then they find the item they're looking for. They can literally inspect it to make sure it's the right part number, and then they travel back to Lorville in their Valkyrie. There's going to be procedural roads and river systems for the future, for the planets and biomes and that sort of stuff as well. And we see some sort of like old road systems as part of some of the other biomes. There are no fly zones, as I said, in certain parts of Lorville, so on the way back, they decide to drop the player off outside one of the external city gates, Gate 2, which is where Clover Star Neely, or at least where the drop-off point for the mission with him is. So they show off the scale of Lorville here. It's massive, and they drop off outside it, and then they drive to it. There are little shanty towns outside the main city as well. The player then goes through the security gate there, then deposits the part in a delivery and pickup terminal to complete his mission. They get another train after that around the city. Trains may come in at varying times based on exactly where in the city they are. So if you're on the outskirts of the city, it could be a train every 5 minutes, for example, rather than every minute. Eventually, they want to show trains like in transit on the maps at terminals, so you can see how long you've got to wait and where everything's going and that sort of stuff as well. Buying ships in-game. This is something that I've been waiting on since Star Citizen was first talked about. Ship dealers will be in-game with Lorville in 3.3.5. In that patch that we're getting very soon, we will be able to buy and rent ships. New Deal is the name of the particular shop that they showed off. This is all going to be purchasable and rentable with Alpha UEC in-game. There are going to be various dealers in the future that are going to all specialize in different ships. So not all of the ships will be rentable and purchasable with 3.3.5. They are still working out exactly what's going to have their inventory. Hopefully it'll be a large selection, and they're still working out what prices the ship should be, but expect them to get messed around with price-wise from patch to patch based on player feedback and based on the intention of how long they want people to grind for. When are resets going to be happening? Stuff like that, because they want these ships to be obtainable. They want players to get them quite regularly every reset so they can work out progression. Road to release. So, in terms of plans for release dates and features, they didn't give us much in the way of any sort of hard figure. However, they did explain their sort of methodology moving forward. Star Citizen will continue to add content, major content, every 3 months and drive content that way. So they're less concerned about hard dates for them. So they don't really want to talk about when the game is going to be beta or full release, but they're more talking about adding as much feature-wise as they can from patch to patch. Part of this is going to mean a better quality of life and user experience with each patch as well, as they're going to make them as accessible and playable as possible, but also focus on the core of the game in the short term. So they're basically just trying to make the game as playable as possible and add features as they are ready. They have object container streaming and bind culling coming in right now. Ship rental and purchase is the next big thing for them. This will give players a solid gameplay loop, and that's sort of all the stuff that's coming in with 3.3. After that, the organization system is a major for them. So getting org mates together, being able to organize their communication, share missions and funds, and having other functionality like that. Full persistence is after that. So this is going to be the ability to go anywhere and leave items around, or ships, or dead bodies, or loot, or guns, or whatever, and for them to be remembered where they are by the server, even if you logged off and come back on. So this is going to allow you to go back to an area to salvage a load of ships that you've just killed, or to repair your ship that you just got rescued from, and now it got healed or whatever, and you want to go back and go get it. You'll be able to store items large and small in your habs, hangars, and ships, where tear, aging, and the evolving universe will sort of like be a thing. It won't constantly be reset. Things will change. Server meshing is the last of their major pillars that they want to get, and once they have that, they will deem the game a full game experience, apparently. Bind culling that they have already should allow them to increase player caps in the servers somewhat. This obviously with the object container streaming, client and server side. The server-side object container streaming is still a thing they need to get as well, although that seemed to be missed off. I suspect that will be hopefully done before 3.4. But server meshing allows them to have their massive universe full of all the players. Full persistence and server meshing is where they've basically said that their marker is for where they want players to go wild, where they think their game is a full gameplay experience. I actually personally won't consider the game to be in a beta state until we also have most, if not all, of the basic gameplay loops in, so science, outpost building, salvage, repair, medical, all of that sort of stuff. It doesn't need all the ships in, and it doesn't need all the gameplay area, but for me, the game does need all the gameplay loops, so all the jobs, all the roles, that sort of stuff. This is certainly a massive step in the right direction, though, and that direction. So they are going to allow people to see all the telemetry data as well from your machine and how it stacks up against other people's too. You can see where you are based on your machine, sort of like hardware, but also how many frames you're getting in the game, that sort of stuff. And eventually, they're also going to allow this to show server performance as well. It's just an interesting thing that you can see. You can find all the links to Squadron 42 trailers and CitizenCon VODs down below. I will be getting loads of videos out over the next few days on CitizenCon and the 3.3 PTU, now that it is no longer sort of like embargoed. There was a lot of other panels throughout the day for CitizenCon. One of them, covering the new flight model for 3.4, is something I can't wait to get my teeth into. My radar have provided a new unveiled Valkyrie to give away. All you need to do is to be subscribed to my YouTube channel and then comment on any of my Star Citizen videos made during October. October. My Radar is a mobile app for iOS and Android that provides up-to-the-minute weather information in the US, Europe, and Japan, with service in Australia coming in by the end of 2018. It allows Star Citizen players to view detailed maps of the moons in-game as well. Yela, Selin, and Daymar. A new version will be released this month that includes new features, including outpost markers and updated maps. Today's video is brought to you by F-Secure Total, premium cybersecurity for you and your devices. It includes Safe, an award-winning internet security suite, protecting you from ransomware, viruses, and while browsing the web. Freedom VPN, giving you net privacy, a way to access otherwise inaccessible content, while being secure and anonymous even on public Wi-Fi. Key, a password manager, allowing you to store your passwords securely and access them from any device. Total protects you and your device. You can try F-Secure Total, Internet Security and Privacy Suite free for 30 days. You can also use the code BoredGamer to get 20% off a subscription. Check out the links below for more information.